When you look at many of the so-called milestones achieved by our people in America, they were not gotten through voting. Why are we now being sold in on the idea that voting is the only route to black power in America, when our own history shows that this is not the case? Is it the fact that a good deal of our media is dominated by people who have achieved their social status through the electoral process and have achieved their wealth and power due to their attachment to the Democratic Party? And therefore, they want to sell the black population on the idea that their route to power and prestige is also the black community's route to liberation? To get the black community to falsely identify with their election as representing an advancement for the black community as a whole? So consequently, those who control that media then project to black people that the only solution to dealing with our problems is voting them into office and then having some kind of vicarious orgasm once they get in, even though we are still unemployed and homeless once they get there. You've got to deal with the realities here.
We're going to really have to start holding black people accountable, and somehow we're afraid to do that. We put them in office, we're afraid to hold them accountable, because what they do, then they run for office, they come to groups like this, they go to all the black churches and they speak, and they have us out there selling fish dinners and chicken dinners and doing the chitlin strut and everything we can to raise money to get them in. And once they get in the office, they say, oh, I'm not an officer, I'm not the mayor of black people, I'm the mayor of all people. And see, I have a problem with that, because first of all, a serious revolutionary will not and does not even wish to become an elected official. I'm telling you about a serious revolutionary, because you cannot do that, because you have to serve two masters, and I think we were all taught you cannot serve two masters at one time. Because once you get into office, if you are not serving the folks who have bankrolled you, you are either going to be recalled, assassinated, or put out. Now, I'm not telling you not to vote for black folks, and I think that you should do that. Anytime a black person is running for office, vote for them, but don't expect for them to be your leader if you want to get liberation and go to freedom. You will always work with them, but your leaders cannot be elected officials, just like the white folks' leaders are not elected officials. You really don't think that Bill Clinton is running anything, do you? That's just the elected official. You really don't think those cabinet members are running their communities. They are elected officials. The business people and the scholars and the people like us who do all the thinking out here, that's who's running them and calling the shots. In other words, when we have elected officials, they are the puppets who should be out there dancing, but we are the puppeteers who should be pulling those strings, telling them what to say. And if they don't say those things, if you don't dance to those strings, then we're going to have to pull the strings and pull you off the stage. People were also very surprised that we were not shocked that Texaco came out and made that statement about the jelly beans. The only thing that we were shocked at is if somebody reported them. Because we know this type stuff goes on all the time in every corporate headquarters that goes on. We know that now that they're telling us that we need to register to vote and go out and do all of this, we're in serious trouble. And the reason why I said that I know the sisters are going to help us to lead this, but brothers, you will be with us too. The only reason why I'm saying pushing us out there, not only is it because it's Women's History Month, I found out that white folks are not so quick to come and throw us into jail as they are to brothers. This is why we had to put Rosa Parks on the bus. This is why some things we may be able to get out there and do. Now, you are warriors, and once we knock on the door, then you'll come and kick it in and push it open. So there is a role for each of us that we have to do. Did you know that everybody in their world can tell who their enemies are? Everybody in this world except black folks. You know, everybody else knows who their enemies are. But, you know, we have this kind of thing that thou shalt not hold, whatever these scriptures are. But, you know, we really believe in that because we've had Baptist ministers since the days of the plantation, Methodist ministers. We've had ministers who've kept us in a prone position, kept us on our knees, but never did say that the Lord or Allah helps those who help themselves. So most of these people understand who their enemies are, but we do not understand that we're the most forgiving people. Don't you know if you ask the Catholics who their enemies are, they'll tell you they don't have to do any research. It doesn't matter where they are. They can immediately tell you that at 2 a.m. in the morning. Ask the Jews who their enemies are. They'll call them for you. Ask the Palestinians. Ask the Chinese. Ask the President of the United States. He'll tell you. But we believe we have no enemies. We believe we have no enemies. Because if we believe we had something, it means we'd have to fight. And some of us are not willing to do that. If we believe that we had some enemies, then it means that we would have to stand for something. This is the kind of thing. But one of the major reasons that black folks refuse to recognize that they're enemies of our progress and enemies of our people is because we are too busy looking for approval. We're too busy looking for acceptance from these people. We're too busy wanting, and no matter what you do, you're never really going to, in a white supremacist society, for people who brought you over here, who deemed that you're inferior, you will never you'll never receive their approval or acceptance, and that's why I don't know why you seek it. The only thing that we should have them doing is fearing us, not accepting or doing these type things. This is what it is. But some of us will say, if we act out, it will hurt our image. Oh, what will white folk think? See, the Japanese aren't looking for acceptance, they're looking for superiority. The Koreans are not looking for acceptance, they're looking for superiority. The Russians, none of these groups are looking for acceptance from these people except us. Because you can believe this, all of these groups that I've named, the minute they get their superiority, don't expect them to be sympathetic either. They'll treat you just like the Europeans did. So when you decide to call yourself third world and all mixed up in coalitions with these people, you better watch and guard carefully who you coalesce with. So sisters, let me tell you, I think that if we're going to be looking at the 21st century, it is really time for us to go to war. I know this sounds terrible, but it is really time. The reason why I say that, some of you are so young, but you do not understand. 40 years ago, we were having these discussions. 20 years ago, we keep reinventing the wheel because we still have not understood that we were not put here to service the needs of white folks and to win their acceptance. And this is the kind of thing that bothers me. And when I say if you're ready to go to war, if you're ready to come with me, you may have to lose some friends because, there are friends who don't want to be associated with people who make waves. You may have to lose some relatives because I've lost a few. I have 2 sisters in Oakland, California that are so bourgeois and such flag wavers that I only see them at funerals, hopefully at theirs. But these are the type things, that we have to go through and have to deal with. And you are also going to lose some of your white friends, and I know that harms a lot of you that you have to lose those friends, but you will lose some of them if you decide to do that. But see, one of the things that we're going to have to do, we're going to have to move just as aggressively as these white women move, but the only difference is we will move aggressively with our men. Now see, they're moving with theirs, but they don't want you to believe that. They want you to believe they are oppressed by those men and that they do not have enough money. But when those men have a chance to hire somebody that they call a, quote, minority, who do they hire, them or us? They hire them because they'd rather hire their mothers and their sisters and their lovers than to hire their enemies, which we are deemed to be by them. But see, let me tell you what we're going to have to do. First, sisters, we got to begin to have some very serious new racial strategies, which we have not had. We need a strategy that's just as Marcus Garvey said, the strategy needs to be race first. And when I say race first, I know a lot of you look up to those people who have not put race first. I think Shirley Chisholm is a wonderful person too. But when Sister stood up and said her oppression was more from being a female than being black, I said, now this is just the end. See, she can't be a part of the organization we're talking about. When Whoopi Goldberg said she had had worse treatment being a woman than she had ever had being black, and I know what part of the country she came from, and I know I'd be treated black, but I said, this is just it.